Good morning. How are you? Today is Tuesday, the 11th of November 2025, and this is papertrail.com, a daily streaming all about governance, risk, and compliance in the UK for SME and mid-market firms. Last week, we spoke about supplier due diligence, sanction screening, and keeping evidence audit ready year round from a risk perspective. And this week, we'll review directors, boards, and company compliance risk, as well as some of the potential consequences for individuals and companies. And today's topic is bribery, fraud, and you, and how failure to prevent really works. So don't worry about the acronyms or the phrases like a failure to prevent. They are all explained during the streaming. And as a disclaimer, this is not a complete guide, although I will focus on reviewing three main personal risks related to the topic. So, number one, the Bribery Act 2010 and economic crime laws make companies and individuals liable if they fail to prevent bribery or fraud. The second risk they are facing is directors and managers who consent or connive and face prosecution personally. And just in case, I had to search that. If you're not familiar with the word connive, the meaning is plotting or scheme. So meaning that you are doing something strange at the back end. It doesn't mean you, but actually that's the meaning of the word. And the risk number three is HMRC and the Serious Fraud Office confirms that adequate procedures are your only defense. And let me open a bracket here. Adequate procedures for the UK Bribery Act and economic crime laws are based on six principles. Number one is a top level commitment. Number two is risk assessment. Number three is proportionate procedures. Number four is due diligence. Number five is communications, including training. And we're going to go back to training later on. And number six, monitoring and review. And these principles apply to all companies, including small, medium enterprises and mid-market firms. But the level of implementation should be proportionate to the company size and risk profile. So let me put an image in your mind, if you may, with this. What all this means to you as a director, board of members, etc. This is like running without anti-bribery control is like leaving the cash drawer open overnight, full of cash for the day collection or the month collection. So even if you trust your stuff and your staff, your people, the risk still on you. Let me repeat that. So imagine like a cash drawer open overnight with nobody controlling that. If something happened, the ultimate responsible is still you. Well, here's the 3 points to consider to solve this problem, the personal risk. Number one is start with the Ministry of Justice 6 principles. We mentioned them already. Proportionate procedures, top-level commitment, risk assessment, due diligence, communications, and monitoring. And number two, train every employee and contractors annually and document completion. Remember, it's all about proof. And this is something like we mentioned there earlier, which is proportion. In communications, number five in the adequate procedures, point number five is communication, including training, and you have to document everything. This is a pitfall, which is number three, assuming small size equals low risk, meaning enforcement targets mid-market supply chains. Meaning, so even if you're not directly pointing to you these controls, the enforcement laws are targeting this mid-market supply chain. So it might come the other way. So it's not something that you might be directly involved, but might come from the different direction. Let me reinforce this point. The failure to prevent fraud does not directly apply for the SMEs and mid-market companies because they do not meet the size threshold. We already established that. However, They are still expected to have robust fraud prevention measurements to avoid liability under other economic crime laws and to mitigate risk. So the failure to prevent bribery, which is the Act 2010, applies to all relevant commercial organizations. And when they say all relevant commercial organizations, that's companies and partnerships in the UK, including small medium enterprise and mid-market firms. So even if you are not in the threshold to be to make this mandatory, you will have to have some things that actually shows and prove that you are compliant anyways. As you can see, there are layers and layers and layers of complexity. So particularly for SMEs and mid-market companies, where there are no dedicated teams, officials, or personnel within the company to run these very complex compliance requirements. And this is only one of 16 frameworks required in the UK for any company. So we mentioned already in the past weeks, health and safety, fire safety orders, DVCA for fleet management, GDPR, cyber essentials, anti-bribery. So no wonder 73% of UK companies outsource and hire consultants or advisors or delegate to contractors. And this is coming from the PwC report issued this year. So what you should be looking for, as I always mention in these live streams, that you and your company should have a compliance baseline, or at least a baseline in mind. So you can hire on your own terms, right? So you at least have a pulse on the situation. So you may ask what a baseline look like. Okay, here are three principal things that when you're going to outsource contractors or consultants. What is the outcome that they produce? Do they link training, risk assessment, and supplier checks across bribery, fraud, and sanctions, right? Number two, what is the differentiator that they have? Do they provide a single risk register to drive every failure to prevent controls? Meaning, actually, do they have a registry that actually complies? And number three, how they reduce your risk? Do they do a mapping to the Ministry of Justice and HMRC guidance, which keeps your defense evidence current? Remember that the only way to make yourself defensible is that you have the evidence and it is current. So one exercise for today, if you want to check all this, open your risk register and tag one supplier for due diligence review today and see what you find. So if it's not up to date, just immediately you already have a red flag there. But there is a faster, reliable, and easier way to do this. This is with our software, PaperTrail. You get your company's Ministry of Justice 6 principles, the Bribery Act 2010, the economic crime laws, and the HMRC guidance compliance requirements all in one place, with reusable supplier dossiers mapped to the ICO, which is Information Commissioner Office, the National Cybersecurity Center, and the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation Frameworks, all ready to demonstrate risk and evidence, obviously all based on your company profile. So it's tailored to your company profile. So what applies and what doesn't apply. This is perfect for UK SMEs and mid-market firms because you use the same control library for health and safety, GDPR, DVCA, and cybersecurity, EPR for packaging. So you don't have to do a double entry, another spreadsheet. This is reducing the overlap by 60% and your costs by 80%. It's all in one place. It's a continuous gap analysis. You see, when they start to get very complicated, you need to understand what applies to you, what it doesn't apply to you. And you have a clear view of what is done, what is missing, and who is the person responsible to fix that before assurance, inspections, reports, or audits hits you, right? So you can do it once, do it properly, and move on. Move on to the things that are more important to you, like grow your company, being more profitable. So join the waitlist, papertrail.com, and stay tuned because this week we'll review directors' boards and company compliance risk, and tomorrow we'll review data protection. And in data protection, you are at risk of the 4% fine on your turnover, right? If you're not aware of that, we're going to cover that. But actually, you can be in data protection issues. You can be liable up to the 4% of your turnover. That's a big number and could make or break a company. So have a great day. See you tomorrow, and thank you very much.